Oi oi, how you doing? I'm now in week 2 of my own grand tour, which I started last week. I've got myself up to stage 12, I think, and yeah, this is my second rest day, my last rest day before I crack into the final week, which is actually a longer week than I had planned for reasons I'll explain a little bit later. For those of you that don't know what I'm doing, I'll put a link to the video that I posted last week about my idea of doing this grand tour. I kind of fell into doing it. It wasn't something that I planned to do. I went out for a ride with a friend of mine last Monday, and whilst I was riding, I was thinking to myself, you know, how do these guys do this sort of day in, day out, riding 165 kilometers every day for 3 weeks, and is it something that in another lifetime I could have done? And I was looking for a challenge because all my races have been cancelled now. Exmouth was cancelled this weekend, just gone, so there are no tries this year for me other than the ones that I do on my own. So I started thinking to myself, what could I do as a bit of a challenge? So after that Monday ride with Ryan 2 weeks ago, I thought I'd just kind of carry on, and I sort of fell into thinking, well, what would it be like to ride 21 stages like they do on the Grand Tour, but obviously not those kind of distances? And I kind of messed it all up quite a lot, actually. I messed up how many stages there are. Despite watching it since the mid-80s, I got myself confused with 21 stages with 2 rest days. That's 19 stages. It isn't. It's 21 stages over 23 days. So I've had to extend my final week a little bit. And because I started on a Monday and not a Saturday, but I've kept my traditional rest days on the Monday like they do in most of the time in the Tour de France, I've kind of messed that up too. So I've ended up with a 9-day final week, which is going to be pretty brutal, but I'll go into that in just a minute. Anyway, one thing I have worked out, having worked out my mathematics properly, was last week I explained that I was going to be doing between a quarter and a third of the full distance of the Tour de France over the entire 3 weeks. And I was a bit disappointed because I thought a quarter sounds a bit of a cop-out, really. A third does sound a little bit closer to being quite cool. So I sat down and did the mathematics. Now, the Tour de France in 2020, which is starting in August, is 3,470 kilometers in total. Now, if you divide that by the 21 stages, that's 165 kilometers a day on average that they're riding over those 21 stages. If you divide that by 3 to get a third of it, it works out to be 55 kilometers a day. Now, I'd originally set out to do a minimum of 50 kilometers a day. Sometimes I've done a lot more than that. So I did some simple mathematics and looked at what I've done between stages 1 to 6 in week 1. And that was 336 kilometers. And then I looked at this week that I've just done between stages 7 and 12, and that was 325 kilometers, which in total is 661 kilometers. And if you divide that by the 12 stages that I've done, it's exactly 55 kilometers. So for the remaining distance that I've got to ride over this next week, I've got to do a minimum of 55 kilometers to ride exactly a third of the distance. As I explained in last week's video, I'm not going to get anywhere near the elevation of what they're doing because A, I live near the Mendips and not the Pyrenees or the Alps, and secondly, I hate climbing. That's not to say I'm not going to do a climbing stage, which I'll explain in a bit, but that's essentially what I'm doing over these last few weeks and what I'm doing and going into next week. As I say, it's my second rest week. I've done 12 stages, averaging 55 kilometers every single day, and yeah, I'm trying to work out whether so far so good or not. My legs do feel a little bit wooden, my calves are pretty tight, so I'm going to do a bit of work on them today. But anyway, let's have a bit of a summary about how this last week's gone, with a little bit of footage and a little bit of an explanation of what I've been doing. Am I the only person that sees this and instantly thinks of cyclists' tan lines? Okay, so stage 7 started off with some efforts out on the moors with Anna Scott, who was doing a training session. So she had to do 10 1-minute efforts and 2 minutes of recovery. So we flipped that so that I would build her into her 1-minute effort over the 2 minutes. So I was essentially getting a 2-minute build with a 1-minute recovery where she'd then catch up. So that's pretty good. Session, enjoyed that very much. On stage 8, which is the following day, I went out with Ryan, who kind of was the idea that instigated all of this. He's an ex-Royal Marine Major, and he's super fit. He's like 68 kilos, absolutely kills it on the bike. It was a bit of a grim day. We did some really fast through and off stuff, which was really enjoyable on what I thought was going to be a relatively flat ride, and yeah, it wasn't. We put a bit of elevation into it, and yeah, he dragged me around some hills on there, but that was great fun. But it definitely was the hardest stage of this last this last week or so, 60k with 400 odd meters of elevation in it. Not much, but you know, enough for me. Stage 9, as a result of that, found me chatting and riding with a new friend of mine called Steph.
This is Steph. Say hi, Steph.
Hello.
Where have we been today? Can't remember where we've been. How do we get here? We're in Bristol, aren't we?
We come from Clevedon, across to Wraxall, through Long Ashton, and then along the Park and Ride route on the pavement, and then just dropped into the Cumberland Basin in Bristol.
Perfect. Yeah, and we've done 25k, and we're going to turn around and go back the same way, more or less.
Nice,
because Ryan murdered me yesterday. So
nice little wet ride.
Yeah, it's damp, isn't it? We're not expecting this.
And then for stages 10 and 11, we went to Exmouth for a little bit of a camping trip. We're going back into lockdown in the middle of this next week. So we're trying to grab a little bit of time camping and meeting with friends and stuff whilst we can. And so we went to Exmouth, and I don't know what you find when you're travelling around, but one of the biggest problems I have really is finding routes and knowing where I'm going and having to stop and check my map and stuff like that. I would really like to get hold of a Garmin that has all that mapping on it, but as it stands at the minute, I've only got a really old Garmin. I don't even know what it is. Hang on. One of these, which is ace. It does everything I need to do. I wanted a small Garmin to go on my TT bike so I could fit it in there. But yeah, obviously it doesn't have any mapping or anything, so having to stop and check on my iPhone all the time. And obviously Exmouth is relatively hilly. It did make me chuckle yesterday when I was back for stage 12, back in Clevedon on the flat. And you know, the elevation's enormously different. I think I did something like 11 meters of elevation in the first 30k. I couldn't even get out the campsite that we were staying on without doing 60 meters of elevation in the first couple of hundred meters, it felt like. So yeah, trip to Exmouth was great fun riding around there. Really lovely weather, crazy drivers though. And then yeah, back yesterday for stage 12 on the flat in the sun. Weather's been fantastic. In fact, talking the weather very quickly, in this next coming week, it looks like today, which is my rest day, is going to be the worst weather, and it looks like I might have completely lucked out with the weather, which is highly unusual, and it does feel a little bit like I might be in France. So on to the next week. This is what's coming up in the final week plus. So what does this next week hold for me? Well, if I'm honest with you, I'm quite nervous about the Queen's stage on Friday. So, and I also know that I do climb a little bit better if I have got a bit of elevation in my legs already. So I'm not going to be looking for completely pan flat courses to ride, but I will be trying to take it easy in terms of stress, ready for Friday. And then after Friday, I think it's purely going to be about survival, trying to get to the end of these kind of 3 weeks. I am enjoying doing it. And I think the hardest thing so far really has been motivating myself when I don't really know where I'm going. I think when I've got a course in my mind, that's fine. But when I don't really know what it is that I'm doing, I do find that difficult. And also, riding on my own is a bit tricky sometimes. I kind of get to, you know, halfway through, and I do get bored very easy. So I kind of just, you know, I could chuck the towel in at around, you know, 35, 40k quite easily. But anyway, it's going okay. I'm enjoying being out in the sun and getting a bit of a break from work, trying to work around everything else. And yeah, just getting out of the house and doing this. Oh yeah, subscribe and stuff, you know, all that stuff. Just do it. I'll be happy. It's got to like 602 subscribers and just like flatlined across. I don't know why that is. I'm making more videos. I'm just hated. You hate me. Unsubscribe. Don't unsubscribe. I enjoy making these videos. I enjoy making them because you guys interact with me, and I do get some really good messages and stuff, and the encouragement's great as well. And some people have decided to come out for rides with me via this, which is brilliant. So yeah, if you fancy hitting the like button, leave me a comment about this, and yeah, hit the subscribe button and the notifications bell, bing, that also lets you know when I release these videos. So anyway, yeah, this next week, nervous about the Queen's stage on Friday, so I will do a little bit of elevation in the run up to that because I find my legs work a bit better if I have got a little bit of climbing in them, but just taking it easy, ready for that Queen's stage. And then I think it'll be survival really then for the final week. So the next Monday's video will be on a day when I am riding, and I might try and take a bit more of a Francis Cade approach this. I don't know if you watch his channel, but I've just started to get into him actually. He vlogs a lot on the bike. I think it might be easier for me to actually do a little bit of the videos actually on the bike talking. Speaking of which, those of you that are very observational might know that I'm using the Insta 360. Again, I haven't got that with me. Yeah, I have no idea where my 360 camera's gone. Anyway, those of you that are observational might have noticed that I'm using my 360 camera again rather than my GoPro Hero 8, which I talked about a couple of weeks ago. A couple of good reasons for that. The 360 camera is great because it gives me an opportunity to kind of change perspectives and move around, so it's almost like I've got a little camera person with me operating it and changing angles. The other reason is because I have killed another GoPro. These cameras do go through quite a lot, you know, making these videos and getting dropped and, you know, getting hit by passing cars and that kind of thing. On this occasion, I managed to get water in the GoPro Hero 8. I think it was a fault from the manufacturer. Anyway, one thing I will say about GoPro is that their customer service is absolutely second to none. So I've got another one winging its way in for me from Holland at the minute, and it should be with me tomorrow, so I'll be able to use that maybe to do a bit more vlogging kind of stuff whilst I'm riding, because I think it's the only way I'm going to be able to do that. Anyway, I've kind of just waffled on with this video. Leave a comment, hit the like button. Good to see you. Have a good week. If you're doing any riding, doing any big kind of sessions, put it in the comments below. Love to know about them. If you're in a local area and you fancy giving me a bit of a tow around during the middle of this week or at the beginning of next week, I think it would be greatly appreciated, because you might end up with a very quiet, knackered cyclist with you. Anyway, have a good week. I intend to have a good week. Whether it is a good week or not will remain to be seen. I think it all hinges on what happens on Friday. Have a good one. See you later. Love you lots. Goodbye.